We're handing out grades for ASU's win over Wyoming, which features an A+ for the defense.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your show. Stay in touch by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Do me a favor, if you have not subscribed on YouTube yet, hit that subscribe button and help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 free weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in to today's edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. On this edition, it's time to grade ASU versus Wyoming. Spoiler alert, we have very, very positive grades for this ASU team. We're going to talk about the offense. We're going to break down position by position group. We're going to talk about the defense. We're going to talk about each level of the defense. And we're going to talk about coaching. Kenny's coaching, what's his name? Marcus Arroyo's coaching, and Brian Ward's coaching before we wrap up with offense, defense, and overall. That being said, let's get right into this bad boy and take a look at the offense. Starting at quarterback, Sam Leavitt was the only quarterback to attempt a pass in this game. With him doing so, he was phenomenal. We talked yesterday about Sam Leavitt going up against Wyoming, kind of breaking down his performance, things he did great, where he needs to improve, and so on. So if you haven't checked out that episode, go ahead and check it out for me. As far as a grade goes, I'm giving him an A- for this game. He did an awesome job managing everything. He goes 14 of 22 passing, just under 64%, 258 yards, 11.7 yards per attempt. Absolutely nuts what he was able to do passing the ball in this game. The efficiency was there. The downfield passing was there. The downfield passing, man. He was really able to attack the middle of the field. 5 completions of at least 20 plus yards. Absolutely nuts. There's places to improve for sure, but overall good, if not great performance. 8 carries on the ground for 47 yards. You also, later in the game, had Jeff Sims appear. He carried the ball 3 times for 15 yards, giving you a total of 12 carries for 62 yards. No scores in this game. That's okay. They did not need either Sam Leavitt or Jeff Sims to get into the end zone. They were incredibly efficient in what they were doing. Jeff Sims looked good in a running role for the team when he came out late, which isn't a surprise. We knew that the one strength that he had heading into the year was his ability to be a dynamic runner. With what he showed, you're happy with it. I don't know how much we see him this year, but you take it and run. As far as the running game goes, giving them an A. And they, I don't want to give them an A+, but you know what? I am going to change my grade. I'm going to give them an A+ for this performance. 34 carries from all of the running backs, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. All 5 of your available running backs for this game, Cam Scadaboo, DeCarlos Brooks, Jason Brown, Kyson Brown, and Alton McCaskill, touched the ball in this game. Each of them had a minimum of 4 carries. Each of them were, all but Alton McCaskill, eclipsed at least 25 rushing yards in this game. Alt McCaskill, 7 for 17, came in late in the game, wasn't the most efficient, is what it is. Cameron Scannaboo, though, 11 carries, 49 yards. DeCarlos Brooks, 6 for 47. He's going to be a problem this year. He is going to be a problem this year. Kyson Brown, 6 carries, 25 yards. Jason Brown, 4 carries, 33 yards. They dominated. They were chunk play after chunk play. They got into the end zone twice, thanks to Cameron Scannaboo and thanks to DeCarlos Brooks. They controlled the pace of this game. They dictated the way that the game was going to go. ASU ends up controlling the clock in this game, and they win the time of possession battle by 15 minutes, little less than 15 minutes in this game. 37 minutes and 4 seconds compared to 22 minutes and 56 minutes for Wyoming. They killed it. They absolutely killed it, the way that they were able to run the ball down Wyoming's throat. Phenomenal. Changing my grade from an A to an A+ on the spot. Wide receiver, not super involved in this game, but pretty good chunk plays. I'm giving them a rock solid B for the performance. 9 receptions, 136 yards, no touchdowns in this game. There wasn't a ton for the receivers to do in terms of volume, but they had some really good chunk plays. You had I'm not even looking at the right thing. A 20-yard reception from Jordan Tyson, a 21-yard reception from Jake Smith, and a 28-yard reception from Melcon Stovall. It's pretty good. They attacked the middle of the field. They were able to take advantage of Wyoming's defense and find those openings, make some plays for the team. Jordan Tyson ends the day 4 catches, 49 yards. Jake Smith, 3 catches, 47 yards. Stovall had the single reception for 28 yards, and Xavier Guillory tagged on 1 catch for 12 yards. Efficient. Super efficient. Lots of chunk plays. Every single player had at least a 12-yard catch in this game. You can't ask for much more than that. Now, moving forward, I said yesterday on the podcast, and this was regarding Sam Leavitt wanting to find a number 1 receiver, but putting this on the receivers, I want to see someone begin to emerge as a true number 1. The last 2 years, you had Elijah Badger. Couldn't ask much more of him as your number 1 receiver. ASU is going to take some time to figure this out. It's probably going to take at least the next 2 weeks. It might take the first game into Big 12 conference play as well. Hopefully this weekend against Mississippi State, you are able to start seeing someone emerge. If it's Jordan Tyson, if it's Jake Smith, whoever it might be. Tight end, similar to the receivers, not much to do in this game. Only 2 catches for 32 yards, but there was a 25-yard score. Both of the catches came from Shimon Mateer, who we're big on this podcast. If you have not previously listened, we like him quite a bit here. Not a ton to do, but again, you only had 14 completions in this game, so you weren't exactly heavy at the position. But Marqueston Douglas did not get a reception. Cameron Harpole did not get a reception. There just was not a ton for the tight ends. The blocking was quality. They were able to contribute with the offensive line. At the end of the day, the production you got from Mateer, you take that whenever you can. The 25-yard score, terrific. He was able to make a guy miss, and then he was just able to gallop his way into the end zone. Take it and run. Offensive line, the last position group we're going to talk about here. I give them a B+. I would flirt with an A-. The reason why I'm going a B+, they were allowing a little bit of pressure. Now, in fairness, I am curious how much of that was kind of generated by Sam Leavitt taking too long in the pocket or just trying to break out of it a little too quickly. I would be curious how that ended up working. They allowed 2 sacks, both of them at offensive tackle between Max Yoniker and Josh Atkins. So it was a rock solid, if not good performance in the pass blocking game. Run blocking, they're terrific. 4.9 yards per carry on the ground. The Sun Devils were able to rush for a total of 241 yards on 49 carries. Outstanding. 2 rushing touchdowns in the game. You had a ton of big chunk plays as well. You had a 15-yard carry from Carlos Brooks. He was averaging almost 8 yards per carry, by the way. You had Jason Brown, who was averaging over 8 yards per carry. Kyson Brown right at 4. Cameron Scadaboo about 4.5. That's great. That's really, really good for you. And keep in mind, they also were subbing out the offensive line near the end of the game when they're pulling starters. So, first of all, ASU got a lot of guys involved, which is what you really want to see this year with the depth that you have. Now, eventually, similar to what I said about receiver, you do kind of want to see the offensive line solidify. You would prefer to have your best 5 out there, which is my logic when it comes to your offensive line. And you would prefer that you kind of have guys entrenched. You know who your left tackle is, you know who your right guard is, all that good stuff. Until then, I'm totally good with rotating guys. They played very, very well. Really good B plus. If I were giving it a percentage, it's like an 89%. Like, it's right there for an A. I'm going just a little bit under. And then for what it's worth, Keona Pete got a carry. Unfortunately, it went for -1 yards, but they gave him a carry while his brother, Koa Pete, a top 5 basketball recruit in the country, not just Arizona, in the country, who was taking a visit to Arizona State over the weekend. And Arizona State is right in the middle of the hunt for him. They have a really, really quality chance to be able to land Koa Pete. So not a surprise that Kiana was getting a carry in this game. What do you have to lose? We're going to flip to the defensive side of the football and talk about their grade, which, spoiler alert, was an A+. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. You also have the eBay Guaranteed Fit. So your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP, bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Wherever you get your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Let's talk defense. I already said A+. All 3 levels of the defense absolutely killed it. Starting with the defensive line, I'm giving them an A-. I would possibly go to, you know what? I will change it. For the second time this podcast, I am updating my grade. I am giving them a firm A, probably about a 95, maybe a 96 out of 100. In the game, the notable stats they recorded 3 tackles for loss. Of the 5 tackles for loss ASU had in this game, they got 2 of ASU's 3 sacks coming from Clayton Smith, Elijah O'Neal, 2 guys that this podcast is remarkably high on. Talked about Clayton Smith as a potential 10-sack candidate this year, off to a good start, and Elijah O'Neal as the breakout senior for this team, off to a good start. ASU generated pressure very well in this game. It wasn't just about the sacks. They were absolutely making Wyoming incredibly uncomfortable. Evan Savoda, I believe is how you say his name, the Wyoming quarterback, uncomfortable. 6 completions, 15 yards. That's not ideal from a passing standpoint. And they only passed the ball 20 times. 5 came from Caden Anderson late in the game where he replaced Savoda. Is what it is. But yeah, this defensive line was a huge reason for that. They also dominated the trenches, killed it in the run game. 32 carries for Wyoming. They managed 40 rushing yards. Now, for what it's worth, you had negative 30 that came from Savoda because of the 3 sacks that he took. He still carried the ball 3 times. His longest was 7 yards. The longest run you gave up in the game was to Sam Scott, 17 yards. DJ Jones, their starter, had a 15-yard carry as well, but he toted the ball 17 times and had 43 rushing yards. Under 3 yards per carry. And 15 of those 43 yards came on 1 touch. Sam Scott, 26 rushing yards, 17 came on 1 touch. They dominated it. Besides 2 chunk plays, ASU just absolutely controlled the line of scrimmage in this game. And it's a big shout out to the big guys up front. CJ Fight had a good game. Justin Wadley had a really good game. Jacob Rich-Kongaika had a good game. Zach Swanson came in off the bench, had a good game. Jeff Clark had a good game. They got lots of guys involved on the defensive line and killed it. The interior dominated. The edge rushers did a great job crashing the pocket and getting home 4 sacks. Linebackers, A+. Without question, A+ for the linebackers. In this game, they recorded 16 total tackles between the group. 2 of ASU's 5 tackles for loss came from the linebackers. They had a sack that came courtesy of KVM Thunderbird, and they had 2 interceptions, which, by the way, were both taken, only one of them was taken to the house. They had 2 defensive touchdowns. The other one was a scoop and score by Justin Wadley. I don't know why I had in my head it was 2 pick sixes. Zyrus Fiaseu, first pass attempt of the game, pick for 29 yards. Next drive, Keyshawn Elliott, interception down the middle of the field. He goes up and gets this ball, by the way. He high points it, takes it back 18 yards, and it was a good return. It felt better than 18 yards when we were watching it live. Terrific pass coverage. They absolutely contributed to Wyoming only going 10 of 20 through the air and 78 passing yards with the 2 interceptions. They absolutely killed it. When it came to the linebackers, or not the linebackers, the tight end position for, what are they called? The Cowboys, they didn't have much going. They had 3 completions for 18 yards, a long of 7. They just weren't doing anything. Again, they were rotating guys in. You had not only good games from Keyshawn Elliott and Zyrus Fiaseu, KVM Thunderbird had 4 tackles, 2 solo. He had a sack and a tackle for loss. You had guys coming off the bench that were able to get involved as well. Crew Jackson, who didn't appear in a game last year, got in late in the game. Albert Smith, Martell Hughes, a true freshman, by the way, was able to get onto the field. They just rotated guys, and it was a outstanding performance from top to bottom from the linebacker spot. Easily an A+. I would grade them the best part of the defense. I would give them a slight advantage over the running backs in this game because they were unstoppable. They generated a pass rush. They were great in the passing game. You could not dial up a better performance from the linebacker spot. Going to the secondary, which includes the safety position as well as corner, I gave them an A. 22 tackles, 1 deflected pass. Again, they only allowed 78 passing yards on 20 attempts. Under 4 yards per attempt in this game. 7.8 yards per completion in this game. They were great. They were great. By the way, they led the team in tackles. They recorded 22 tackles for the team. They had a single pass deflection. They did not record a turnover. That's A-okay when the front seven is doing what they're doing and the secondary is not giving up anything. The longest completion of the game came courtesy of receiver Tyler King. By the way, 1 catch for 23 yards. Everybody else, Chris Durr Jr., 3 catches, 16 yards. He had the touchdown at the end of the game. Devin Body Jr., 1 catch, 12 yards. Nick Miles, 2 catch, or excuse me, he was tight end. DJ Jones, 1 catch, 5 yards, or he was a running back. They did their best to get guys involved. So you had 3 receivers in this game: Tyler King, Chris Durr Jr., and Devin Bodie Jr. 5 catches for, 51 yards, and the late touchdown with under 30 seconds to play. That's teach tape. It doesn't get better than that. You had a really quality game from Keith Abney. You had a quality game from Cole Martin when he came in late. Shamari Simmons, oh my goodness, did he set the edge from the nickel spot. He got outside so quickly and was able to get the running backs to have to go back inside because there was nothing to bounce outside, and it led to them getting tackled near the line of scrimmage on a down-to-down basis. It felt like Shamari Simmons was one of the best players on the defense in this game. Despite only having 3 tackles and a single solo tackle, he was one of the best defenders in this game without question. Terrific performance. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come. After he had a good season last year, he is potentially going to make a little bit of a name for himself in his 2 years in Tempe. But you can't ask for a better game out of him. Miles Rouser, 5 tackles, 4 of them for solo. Great performance. The second leading tackler on the team came into this game with a lot of hype from the fan base, a lot of compliments from the media who was able to witness him during training camp, during practices during the week. Miles Rouser legit. Miles Rouser may be the best safety on this team. If we want to do an overreaction, which could be another thing we take a look at moving forward on this podcast. Montana Warren got on the field, 2 tackles for him. LT Welsh only had 1 tackle in the game. That's fine for arguably your number 1, probably number 2 corner. Javen Robinson, speaking of your number 1 corner, only 1 tackle in this game. That's fine. They weren't throwing the football. It's pretty hard to rack up tackle numbers when ASU is not giving up anything. They only had 54 tackles as a team. 28 of them were solos, so they were doing a great job gang tackling as well. Outstanding performance from the secondary. A rock-solid A in this game. And again, if I'm going on a scale of 0 to 100, probably about a 93 is what I would feel confident giving them in this game for their performance. We're going to talk about the coaching staff now. How did Kenny Dillingham coach this game? How did Marcus Arroyo call the offense? How did Brian Ward call the defense? And then overall grades for both sides of the football and the team performance. Coming up next, this is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's number 1 sports book, but we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 free weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you can watch every regular season game on Sunday afternoon, including your out-of-market games. So if you're not a fan of the Arizona Cardinals, you can check out games on the East Coast. It's terrific. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel at any time, by the way. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's number 1 sportsbook, get in on the action. One last time, wherever you get your shows, like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get that update when we post new content. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Make sure you tune in to tomorrow's show as we take a look at the upcoming Mississippi State matchup. We're going to talk about how ASU wins the game and why it is a super important benchmark game for the team. Let's break down the coaching. Kenny Dillingham, A, for sure. Just flat out A in this game. This was a super disciplined Sun Devils team. Not just from a statistic and play standpoint either. They were very disciplined when it came to penalties. Only 4 penalties for 30 yards. 2 of them were delay of games. Super avoidable from the offense. Outside of that, they were, first of all, Wyoming undisciplined in this game. 7 penalties for 65 yards. They had a lot of late hits. They had a lot of frustration on the field. You know what ASU did? Cool, calm, collective. They did their job. They said, you know what? You can be as pissed off as you want. We're going to come out. We're going to punch you in the mouth. Outstanding from a discipline standpoint. Kenny Dillingham has got these guys so far ahead of where they were a year ago. So far ahead of where they were a year ago. This is a team that believes in itself. They believe in the image and the culture that they are beginning to create in Tempe. They are buying into Kenny Dillingham, and they're buying in to being a better team than they were a year ago. A team that's going to be competitive all year, a team that's going to hopefully win at least 5 more games and go bowling this year. Based off of what they did in game 1, I feel pretty good about that. Marcus Arroyo for the offense, another rock solid A in this game. A little bit shy of a A+, I would say. This was a great game. Called it, had 499 yards of offense. Keep in mind, there was a loss of 14 yards from the 2 sacks Sam Leavitt took. So they had, what's that end up being? 513 yards of offense in this game. They were just so efficient, man. 37 minutes and 4 seconds of playtime. Dominating the time of possession game. Almost 15 more minutes than what Wyoming was able to get on the field. It does not get better. You can't dial up a better game plan in this game. Sam Leavitt, 5th ever start in his collegiate career. First career start at Arizona State. Redshirt freshman, 19-year-old quarterback. 14 completions, 22 yards, 258 yards, 2 scores. Phenomenal for his first game. The run game, 49 carries. I said this team needs to be run heavy this year. Marcus Arroyo said bet. 49 carries, 241 yards. You had negative 14 yards from Sam Leavitt taking 2 sacks. You also had 1 negative yard from Keona Pete late in the game. So 46 carries for 256 yards is essentially what you had in this game. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. 2 touchdowns on the ground. Chunk plays in this game. 9 yards from Scadaboo. 15 from DeCarlos Brooks. 16 from Jason Brown. 16 from Kyson Brown. Even the quarterbacks did good. Sam Leavitt had 21. Jeff Sims had 21. Those are longs, by the way. That is not what they totaled. That was their best carry of the game. It was great. They were able to scheme up a pretty good offense for the passing game. Only 14 completions. It turned into 258 yards, including a 68-yard score for the team that came off of the screen. Marcus Arroyo attacked the middle of the field at a very successful rate. Sam Leavitt had completions of 20-plus yards to 5 different receivers. Also had a 17-yard completion to Cam Scadaboo. Terrific. The passing game was on point in this game. The run game was dominant. killed it. Defense called by Brian Ward. He broke my scale. This is an A++ for him. This is over 100 if I am doing the scale of 0 to 100, which we may incorporate moving forward. That seems like fun. Over an A+, A++ in this game. Only 118 total yards allowed. That's passing, that is rushing. They gave up 78 passing yards on 20 attempts. They gave up, what did we decide? 40 rushing yards on 32 carries. They sacked Evan Svoboda 3 times, caused him to lose 30 total yards despite the fact he had 3 other carries for positive yards. It just, you can't get better than that. On third down, Wyoming was just 3 of 13. They did get a 4th down conversion on a 4th and 1. That is what it is. That's a high efficiency play when you're trying to convert. 3 of 13. You gave up 7 points in the game. That score came with less than 30 seconds. So you pitched a shutout, as far as I am concerned. Dominated. 3 turnovers, 2 touchdowns, 3 sacks. Whatever you wanted to do defensively, whether it was rushing the passer, defending the run, or dropping into coverage, forcing turnovers, limiting anything that the offense could do, getting off the field on third down. It was great. It was great. Brian Ward in his bag in this game. A++ without question. Overall grade for the Sun Devils, I'm giving them an A. I'm giving them an A. There was only 3 position groups I gave less than a A. There was 2 that only got a B. The O-line got a B+, and I could argue they maybe should have gotten an A- out of me. Terrific coaching. Kenny Dillingham, outstanding. The way that he was able to manage this game. Marcus Arroyo could not have called a better offense. Brian Ward literally couldn't have called a better defense. Has to be one of the best defensive minds in college football. I'll go that far. I really will. He is going to get calls this offseason to take other jobs at Power 4 schools. Hopefully, ASU can entice him to stay. Give him a raise. Give him whatever he wants. Give him NIL money for all I care. Do not let Brian Ward leave this program. But the bottom line is ASU dominated on offense. They were unstoppable on defense, and they were coached at a ridiculously high level in this game. Easily an A for this game. 95 to 96 out of 100 overall. What was your grades for the team? What was the best position group? How did you feel about the performance of Sam Leavitt and the play calling by Brian Ward? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on YouTube as well, or not YouTube. You can hit me up on Twitter as well at Richie Bradshaw 36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Shout out my everydayers who are here every day, especially to you guys. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. And if you haven't hit subscribe on YouTube yet, do me that solid. Hit that subscribe button. We are over 900 subscribers, by the way. We are closing in on 1,000. We're going to find a way to celebrate together as a channel when we hit that number. But again, you guys are the best in the whole world. We're going to be back tomorrow, and we're moving on to Mississippi State. We got to talk about how ASU can win this game on offense and on defense. We're going to talk about how much this game means, and we're going to talk about what happens next, whether they win or lose for the remainder of the season. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.